Hey everybody! Before we get started, huge thanks to our YouTube members. World champ level, Frank Maniac 90210, Triple Crown, nobody at the moment, Grand Slam Raz. Currently the YouTube membership thing is down. We're working on fixing that. If you want to support the podcast, you can support by following on all social media below, as well as Patreon and buying some merchandise. We've been having some computer issues all day today, so give us a moment. We'll get the new merchandise up, but it will be posted up very, very soon here. The new logos will be the office logos as well as the MTV logo. So give me some moments. We'll get that figured out. Thank you for the patience and waiting around for episode of Not Cool in High School, episode 138, Taylor's Versions, 1989 with Robb Radke. Let's get some music by the Converse Kid going and get this one started. This is an ABJ podcast production. Join. What's going on, everybody? Sorry for the delay. If you're waiting for it live, thank you so much. We are live on Facebook, High Tension Wrestling's YouTube page, our YouTube page, Twitch, and now Kick. Trying that out. Just been having some tech issues. Hopefully, everything goes through great. We did have a computer crash a few times here today, so just bear with us. I'm sweating like a pig right now trying to figure everything out. Make sure you follow not only all of our links below for the ABJ podcast and Not Cool in High School, but make sure you also go support our guest links below. Robb does have a Pro Wrestling Tees Twitter, Instagram that you can go follow. Yeah, he works super hard on the wrestling scene. We'll dive a little bit into that as well. But we are here to talk about Taylor's version of 1989. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest who's waiting so patiently here. Let's bring him in, Robb Radke. What's going on, my guy?
Hello. What's up?
Nothing much, bud. So this is interesting. So we talked about picking a topic for Not Cool in High School for us, and I haven't done a lot of music reviews, so I am still kind of like finding myself in these reviews. So, and this is a tough one to pick, right? Because the Taylor Swift nation is monstrous, and I hopefully, as someone who has never really consumed an entire Taylor album, I don't know a lot of Taylor's backstory. I just kind of know what has been presented to me through media of Taylor. I hope I do this one justice here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one of the ravenous Swifties. I don't care if people don't like Taylor Swift. It's not like a big deal to me. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. So what made you choose this album or the artist of Taylor Swift for your appearance here today?
So 1989 is the I consider the album that made me like a full-on Swiftie. Like 1999 came out and boom, I'm like diving head first, you know.
Yeah.
With not shy about it, just like hell yeah, Taylor's where it's at. Um I first time, so I've always been aware of Taylor Swift. When she started making music, I think it was my senior year in high school, and back in 2006 2007, I wasn't like cool in high school or anything, but it was just like, oh, you can't like Taylor Swift, so like, I didn't really like dive in. I knew Teardrops on My Guitar was a banger, but I couldn't like say it because you get made fun of or whatever. But and you grow out of that as you get older anyway. But then I was in the mall one day. 1989 had just come out. I was in the mall, not looking for anything Taylor Swift. Really, I think I was looking for like clothes or whatever. But then I stop in FYE at the time, and they're playing the full album track for track because it had just came out that week or whatever. And as I'm like just walking through the store, I'm like, "Hey, this song's kind of a banger." And then the next song comes on, and you're like, "Wow, this one's a banger too." Like this, and then next thing you know, you're 5 songs deep and just like dancing along to it. It's like super catchy, super like upbeat. Of course, "Shake It Off" was like the lead single, and like "Shake It Off," undeniable. I loved "Shake It Off" the second I heard that, even before getting to the FYE. But yeah, that's why I chose this album. It's the album that made me switch. Not
Yeah.
necessarily my favorite album, but it is the one that brought me to the Taylor world, Taylor
The
Nation.
yeah. So there is a possible follow up for another Taylor album future episode with us. But I think Shay has claimed a stake of possibly joining us for another future episode if we do another Taylor album, which I think would be really
Absolutely.
fun. Um, I did consume a little bit of her newest album, and
Mhm.
so I kind of say like I think I'm a little more into modern Taylor than I am this Taylor, but going back and listening to this album without kind of burying the lead, I was pleasantly surprised with my experience. But the biggest thing we kind of want to touch on with this new album is we'll kind of get into the backstory here for a moment. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a ramble, but some key notes is the new album better produced, and does it capture the same emotions and feelings as the previous version of the other album? And then some people say that Taylor's versions of 1989 in general as an album is considered a pop bible. Have you ever heard this term for this album?
I don't know that I've specifically heard that term, but I do know like the Swifties, like a lot of the Swifties love it. 1989. Uh, I saw when I went to the Eras tour a lot of 1989 era cosplays. Like I think maybe that's like I don't know, maybe I don't even know how to describe it, but 1989 really is kind of like a almost like a peak of like Swiftiness, if that makes sense. Like when you
Yeah,
think of a Swifty, like this kind of album is the one my mind goes to.
yeah. All right, so I'm going to kind of do my spiel of my little research just to kind of, if you're not a Swifty fan like I am, I approach every single episode and review as if no one's ever heard it before. But this one, I'm the one on the rock. Hi, me. I'm the problem. There's your little note. But this is the fifth album in Taylor's in discography. This concept, this album was a complete full dive into her pop genre after her album Red, which she wanted to be pop, but her producers and everybody like that was like, no, stick to the country. That's your niche. Don't try to cross over. Because at this point in time, really, no one from country has fully crossed over to pop, because it's usually the other way around. Usually, failed pop stars at this time in the history of country have become country artists, and a lot of country stars couldn't break into that mainstream pop. And she's this young, very pretty, like little girl who's like, innocent. And this is kind of like there's always that spot where that artist goes from the, that young girl to like the mature, and do they age with their audience? Because it's she was kind of always all stuck in this thing. Her serial dating is really talked about at this point in time in her career, and people are kind of giving her shit for that. I was stuck in that loop where everyone's like, another Taylor Swift song rapping about a boy and heartbreak. And she kind of was held to an unfair standard, because most pop and country and music in general is heartbreak. Like that's what makes good songs. And just because her life has always been so public, and she's been public about her life, she's kind of been held on a different standard, which I don't really think is fair. So she goes and she actually misses the Grammy for the album Red, and it kind of triggers something in her. She's like, you know what? I don't care. I'm doing me. If it's my downfall, I don't give a shit. I'm gonna fully go into this album 1989, and I'm gonna lean into the pop. So instead of more of the guitar and that country vibe, she goes full drum beats. She goes full synthesizer. She really channels that 80s era pop in this album with this. And the stuff that really sets this one apart is the marketing, right? So this is the one of the albums where it shows her growth as a woman. She talks about, kind of moving out, going out on her own, experiencing life, experiencing relationships in a different aspect. She's trying to carry over her country fans, but also lean into a new pop style. She's developing a new look. She's kind of went from that, I guess, the country look to her pop look, and setting that tone. And this is really the first artist or album that really leaned into social media when it came to really pushing this album. It wasn't really done in this aspect. It was still kind of in that aspect of for the younger listeners, where she was very active on social media. She would comment and post and lean into the social media aspect and communicate with her audience. And I feel like this is the moment for Taylor, for my research, is where she set herself apart and started the early seeds of what we now know as this giant mecca pop sensation, or just pop culture icon of Taylor Swift, is kind of this album, because she leaned so heavily into the way she marketed this album, which is like, I would feel like her launching point. Like using social media to promote and grow, as well as like taking huge brand deals. So she leaned it into like Subway and Coke and like Verizon and all these different huge media outlets to promote this album. Everywhere you turn, like, you were just talking and hearing about Taylor's version of 1989 and the importance of her crossing over. There was a moment on iTunes where there was a glitch on the first album, where a 10 to 8 second preview of the song White Noise was released. Was it a glitch? Was it marketing problems? Was it not marketing problem, marketing genius? Who knows? But an 8-second preview of White Noise charted #1 on iTunes for weeks, and no one can beat the preview, because there was that many people hungry for this album, that this release glitch went bonkers. Like, the hype for this album was unbelievable. Experts tracked this record to only sell between 600K to 750,000. And like all experts, they were fucking wrong, because this album sold 1.2 million copies in the first 7 days, which made her the first artist to hit 3 consecutive million selling art things in a row. Her Red hit 1.2 million, and then the last album before that, Speak Now, hit 1 million. So she was the first woman to do it twice, with the first week of hitting 2 albums, and then the first one to ever do first 3 consecutive, I mean. The coolest thing with this one, as a pop culture person, Pokemon and collecting is a great big thing to market albums. This album had 13 random Polaroids that were put inside every album, and it was a little Polaroid photo with lyrics below it. There was 65 total Polaroids that you can collect. So they were like the Willy Wonka tickets. People were buying massive albums so they can collect all of these Polaroids. It's fucking genius. Like, if you want people to buy physical media once again, that's the things you have to do, because when Taylor does this, like, when this is kind of the big thing that sets physical media apart, is if you have those special moments, and not a lot of people do that kind of stuff anymore. Do you still have your Polaroids from their first album? Did they survive?
No, they did not. I don't have. I did. I will say I did. That day, I did hear the album in FYE. Like, I walked out with it. Like, I bought the CD right then and there. I was like, I can't. I gotta buy it. No, I got no idea where that CD would even be.
I wanted to, because everything's been going crazy. I wanted to go on like eBay if someone's selling like the original 65 set of like the Taylor's albums, like if that's like a big deal or not. So maybe we'll do a little research on that in a few. Another interesting thing with the first version of this album before being re-recorded is she pulled the album and her entire discography like a week after the album dropped from Spotify. She said she was really pissed off of the way Spotify was paying its artists with streams and revenues, because she hit 3 times now million and didn't really see the benefit of being on that platform, because it wasn't giving her, the right proper, what she felt the proper money. And and she set a tone for that. A lot of artists then did that. She didn't go back to Spotify for almost 3 years. Now, even with this new album, she's doing a special release on Spotify where she talks and does almost like this podcast, where she's doing an album track by track breakdown that's exclusively only on that platform, because that platform has changed its policy on how they pay artists. Taylor kind of took a risk during a huge moment and change in her genre career to also pull from some of the biggest audio streaming platforms, which was a really big deal. Once again, criticized for her personal life and serial dating. This album tour was filled with tons of superstar guests. So every time she would hit the stage with somebody and go to a city, she would have a special guest and special thing happen. This entire tour was recorded for a music video. Famously, during this album, she had on stage Kanye West and Nicki Minaj come out, which is like squash the big beef, which was a huge thing. So this tour on the album was talked about. Unfortunately, her Kanye beef and the beast of Kanye did not stay too far away, because not too far during the album release, he releases a song and then talks about a lyric where he says, "I made Taylor Swift famous," which then started a whole nother beef between two different genres and two different fan bases, where the hip hop community was kind of hating on Taylor, which I think remnants of this, her kind of breaking into pop, and she has done a little bit of hip hop appearances. She has a collaboration later on with Kendrick Lamar and a bunch of other people, so that she's always kind of had this stigma in that genre because of this Kanye thing. And now like Beyonce's kind of jumped in on this, and now into modern time, Beyonce's trying to make country while Taylor's leaning into pop, and there's like a weird underlying beef there. But during this the beef, Kim and Kanye kind of said there was a phone call where they asked for permission and they released the footage of a phone call, and then a lot of people attacked Taylor, where she kind of went into hiding social media wise and really stayed away from that kind of stuff until an actual phone call emerged of saying that the other one that they released was doctored. And I don't know the whole detail on it, but it really launched her into another stratosphere because she leaned into it publicly. Like, she went and talked about it. She like, instead of staying quiet, she was like, listen, the biggest thing I will say that I respected Taylor with this is she's unapologetically her. She doesn't really care what people think. She's not going to be quiet. She's not going to let bullies kind of dictate the way she feels. She's going to do her on all costs. And I think, how you said, this was the album where it kind of became cool to be a Taylor fan. If you were a secret Taylor fan on the older stuff, this is the album where you kind of like you unveiled the shirt of like, I'm a Swiftie, and like this album was the catalyst to a lot of that. Anything else on the first go around with this album that really stood out to you when it came to marketing or anything like that that I missed or touched on, trying to kind of rewind our brain to go back to those early days of the 2014s?
No, it's more than I like. I wasn't privy to like the marketing of it or anything. Like I said, I heard it in a store and I said, all right, this is for me. Of course, like I said, like my first instance of hearing it was Shake It Off, undeniable hit. But yeah, nothing. As far, yeah, nothing marketing wise. It was just like, okay, I guess I like Taylor Swift now.
Yeah. This is another huge one where she broke really big into China. If you look through all of the charts here, she's number one, essentially straight down the board. Double platinum in Australia, gold in a whole bunch of countries: Italy, Germany, Denmark, France, New Zealand, Poland both hit platinum, Portugal gold, Spain and United Kingdom went platinum. Trying to just look through here some more. This did have a cassette, CD, and digital download streaming. It's cassettes. That's crazy. Vinyl. It had an LP later on. Digital download and streaming is still there. It's listed in the number one for 2023 and 2024 for albums. It won tons and tons of awards. We'll be here all day, but let's kind of dive into now in 2024. We have the re-release. Sorry, am I doing? Yeah, October 27, 2024. We have. I actually did it backwards. Sorry. I'm looking at the wrong thing. 2024 was the original one. October 27, 2023. this album drops where it's Taylor's version. Now it was a whole nother backstory that I really don't want to get into because I don't know the full details and I don't want to do it wrong. But there was in 2009 there was a response of regarding her masters of her back catalog where she didn't have the rights to them. The previous owner, there's some alleged things going on, or maybe it's not alleged, maybe it's fully out there. I don't want to get sued, but there was some stuff going on with the person who she originally recorded masters with and some stuff that was going on there. So she actually went back into the studio and started re-recording all of her old albums, kind of giving them a newer vibe, a newer feel, but still staying true to what they were as originals. And this is one of the most anticipated ones ever, because like we said before, the significance and the importance of 1989, her going back into the album, re-recording that was a huge deal. And just like the first time the album went through, it re-broke all of the stone mods, and it was essentially a cool. Some people thought it was a cash grab, kind of looking into it, where it's like, oh, here she goes again trying to do it. But I think the importance of trying to own her masters was cool, because that's one of the biggest things when you talk about music, of just breaking down the artist not owning sometimes their things. So she really fought hard for that, and I kind of give her a lot of a credit. But when it comes to listening to the original and then going back to this version, is there any songs that you listen to that like changed too much? Or I kind of did. I listened to a few YouTube videos where they compared both songs. I think it's insanely minute in some of the productions or changes of certain tracks.
Yeah, most of the Taylor's versions are mostly one to one. The main difference is, there's minute differences. The main thing is like, her voice is more mature because she's older.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's nothing on 1989. There is one on I believe Red. Whichever stay is on. That one I felt like changed quite a bit. That wasn't my cup of tea. But 1989 now, it's all pretty standard. I always just go with the Taylor's version just because like that's
It's
what
hers, and
she's that's
yeah,
I don't want to
yeah.
feed the monster. I don't care if other people do. Like I know there's some hostility in the Swiftie community if you're still listening to like the original. I don't care. I'm not gonna. It just out of respect or whatever. Not
Mm-hmm.
that yeah, but yeah, they're mostly similar. 1989 is pretty one to one.
Yeah. So I will say, kind of before we start breaking into the tracks here, just making sure that's not me buzzing here. Is when the album picks up, I enjoy it. Right, I'm into the tracks. I'm kind of breaking down things. It's not an album or a style or a genre that normally I would dive into. There's like some of the stuff I can't. Like the first couple, I had to listen to this a few times. The first time I listened to it, I still had to break that mold in my head. I'm listening, like I'm trying to put myself into the mind state of a 2014 Taylor Swift and not really know any of the backstory, anything really about her. And I listened to the album and I was just like, I mean, it's easy listening. I know some of the hits. They're like, I've heard them before. I'm aware of their existence, and I'm kind of listening to it through the eyes of like just what I've known from her, of what's been told to me through the media. Like, oh, another breakup song. Nope, another breakup song. And I'm kind of not really listening to the lyrics of it, and I'm not diving into it. I'm just kind of having on a background noise. And then I had another listen through again today. And then before I listened to it, I started looking up the history of like what makes this album significant, learning more about her as a person and an artist, and trying to re-put myself into the mind state of 2014 when this first album came out, and why it's important that it came back out later on in 2024. And then went back and listened to it on Spotify with the lyrics. So listening to it and reading the lyrics while I go, and I was like, oh, there's some aspects of this album that I really enjoy. One of the things I don't enjoy with this, and it is a lot more with pop, but Taylor, I would say, really leaned to it more into her older version of music, very reliant on the hook and chorus, not a lot of verse. Would you agree with that?
I don't know that I would agree with that. I think so. Here's my experience with pretty much any Taylor Swift album or any song. Like you can listen to it 5 different ways. You can make yourself sit there and listen to it with the lyrics, without the lyrics. Doesn't matter. And sometimes, when it's new, it's just not gonna hit you the way that, like the new album, I got that a lot with. It's like it's just not hitting me like a Taylor Swift song just yet. And then randomly, that song will come on in a shuffle, and a lyric will just like grab you and
Mhm.
open up a whole new world. And then it just like then every time you hear the song after that, it's like because her I think most Taylor Swift fans would, and even probably some of her critics would agree, her strongest asset is like her lyricism. She's like a songwriter. She's a
Mhm.
wordsmith in a lot of regards. And I think this album, yeah, the verses I think paint more of a picture than the choruses most often. Like "Shake It Off," for example. My take on "Shake It Off" is yeah, it's just a, catchy, fun pop song, but really, what she's doing with the song is she's, like, taking ownership of all her, criticisms.
Mhm.
I go on dates and can't make them stay or can't dance, like, she's kind of just calling out all the things that people say about her. It reminds me of like that last rap battle in 8 Mile when Eminem or B Rabbit is just like, yeah, I am white, I am a bum. So then like,
Mhm.
she's taking ownership, she's taking control of the narrative of the things people say about her and using them for her own benefit. And so yeah, I think I think maybe this isn't maybe her most lyrical album, but it is for sure like there the stuff is in there. It's for sure.
Yeah. No, I will definitely agree that this is definitely not her lyrical album, her top a lyrical album. Like you listen to modern Taylor, and instead of hearing the hook and the chorus over and over and over as predominantly the catchy beat, she leans more into her lyricism later on. But there is shades of songs here where it almost we'll kind of get into it here in a moment, where I was like, I want more lyrics. I kind of want more of a breakdown of what you're trying to tell me in this song, because it was like a really good gem in there, and then
Mhm.
it disappears and she's back to the hook and chorus on repeat again. And it's like, oh wait, there was some substance there. I kind of want to know more. And it's not so much like in the aspect of where I think a lot of people lean into hers because they want to hear her side of the story on a bad breakup, because she did publicly date so many famous people. So people are dissecting it like, is this lyric about him? Is this about this? Is he a piece of crap? Like it kind of sparked up that like almost Jerry Springer-ish, but she's not doing it to be beefy. She's doing it
Mhm.
more to be like, I'm just putting my business out there, or like speaking on what I want, but once again, because she's the girl who's crossing over. She's the girl who's in your face a lot. She's all over social media. She's all over the news. It's like it's a double-edged sword, like to kind of be honest about your personal life, but then also um, you know, because you're dating celebrities and public people. So let's kind of break into it right here. So we'll jump into the first track of the album, Welcome to New York. This one here, I kind of wrote down. This is really like setting the tone of, hey, I am no longer country. It's very very country. It has the electric pop beep synthesizers, and it's really saying like, for like it seems like it's getting rid of past trauma, past heartbreak, old baggage, and then kind of starting new in a new city. And that's kind of what I got out of that song. Um, First song, like I said, I don't think you're anything that's gonna stand out, but it's a good opening, upbeat. Let's have some fun on the album.
Mm. Yeah, no, it for sure sets the tone on like, hey, this is what this album is. Um, I like to say 1989 is a no skip album. Um, but the caveat I usually bring up is if there was a skip on this album, I think it's "Welcome to New York," and maybe that's just my personal take on it. And I know it is. I
That's
know a lot
interesting.
of people love that song. It's
Yeah.
just that so Taylor Swift is great at being a like a billionaire, but can also like relate to you. You like, yeah, I can relate to Taylor Swift, even though, we live in two entirely different universes. Uh, Welcome to New York, to me is just one that's like not necessarily super relatable, just because it's like, oh yeah, your view of New York is like, sunshine and rainbows and frozen yogurt on every corner or whatever, and it's like there's not a lot of people's experience with New York. So
Yeah.
and I get it, like Frank Sinatra did the same thing. It's just like an anthem kind of deal. Um, but yeah, I'm saying if there is a skip, there isn't. So like, not saying I'll skip it. Like it's a banger. It's to me that is just like the epitome of just like it's just a fun, poppy, catchy song. Let you know what the rest of the album's pretty much gonna be, and like, yeah.
There's a lyric in this that really stood out, of a 2000 writing this as a 2014 Taylor Swift in a country universe, then crossing over to pop as well, which is insanely progressive. It's hard to think about in a 2014 aspect, but then kind of rehearing it in 2024, you're like, wow, look at you, Taylor, proud of you. She says, "You can love who you want, boys and boys and girls," which was like a huge lyric of like she's standing up for the community, which is kind of dope. Which is like, once again, kind of looking back in 2014 glasses as a country girl who is singing to a certain demographic of people. Like this is an out. That's a lyric that sets a tone there, starting off
Yeah,
this new version of Taylor Swift.
yeah.
Um, so let's get into the next one here. The next song on this one is going to be Blank Spaces. Um, there's I'll let you break some of these down, because like I said, a lot of these are going to kind of blend for me, and it took me a few playthroughs to kind of pull something out of it. I'll also, when I go to the first song, if you don't mind, I'll kind of, because you're the person who kind of picked this, I'll let you kind of say how that song, if anything stands out to you with it, and then I'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Anything from me for
Yeah, for Blank
blank
Spaces.
space?
Yep.
I just know that the overall tone of this song is just kind of like kind of calling out the shitty behavior of men for just being like writing women off as crazy, you know, anytime they disagree with something or whatever. So she's again taking ownership and like making it like her own thing. Like it can, you know, it's going to be forever, or it's going to go down in flames. Your pick, basically like you tell me when it's over if the high was worth the pain. Like I don't know, like those are pretty pretty top notch lyrics for me. Just
Yeah.
even though they're simple and catchy, but like it's just basically it's up to you what you want to do, bro. Like I'll be crazy if I want to be crazy. You take the risk, basically.
Yeah, totally. Now, one of the things I kind of got from this one as well is I'm actually pulling up the lyrics to kind of have some of them up. While I was doing that, um, I also pull out of this of like she kind of sets a tone of telling with her album of like, thank you, you reminded me, Lily, in the chat. Because I kind of did like a Discord, we listened to it in the Discord, and I kind of like it was a thing. This whole Taylor thing has been a thing with some of the people in the community. But she kind of makes it very clear in this song too that like, hey, I have a dream, I have a goal, I have passion, my music is here, but I also want to experience love, a young love, and not so much be a serial dater, but like, hey, this is what I'm willing to do in this relationship. I can't give you, I guess, your traditional young girl style of relationship, and I'm not going to be the girl who kind of just like is secondary to the boy. This can be the greatest relationship ever. It can go down in flames, but I'm here for the ride, whatever it is, it is. And she kind of like, I don't like, and kind of leaning into her criticism of like she's kind of aware of her sexuality, she's aware of who she is or what she wants out of a relationship, and at this point in time in 2024, the woman's not supposed to have that power in the dynamic, and she's essentially saying, "This is my standard. This is what I want. If we have a good time, I can turn a good guy to bad for the weekend," which is kind of like hinting of like leaning into who she is as a woman and accepting certain aspects of a relationship or more on the physical side. Like I'm like, at least that's kind of what I'm pulling out of it, where she's like, we'll see where it goes. And like I said, in that aspect of her coming into this country girl and leaning into it now. She's like, no, I'm entitled to have my experience in a relationship. One of the things I do like about this song that I didn't realize listening to it younger version and now here is right before the hook starts, you have the pen click, like because she's writing. Like I never picked that up that's a pen click.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, there's always Easter eggs and shit like that.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool, but like that's going to be a repeating trend where some songs it's kind of like, hey, the breakup happened, but like kind of diving into, well, it like, I don't know, like leaning into more of the aspect of, it happened for a reason, and not always saying that the other person was the problem. She is kind of aware in a lot of these songs too. It's just like, hey, I'm on tour, I'm chasing my dream, I'm doing what I want in my life. You can either be around or you can fuck off. And so our some relationships she talks about in this album too, we'll kind of get into, where it's like, no, I'm really, really into you, but just it sucks that we're in two different spots in our life and we both have two different sets of goals, and it just didn't work out, which is kind of a cool way of looking at relationship too. Like I feel like she's pretty mature for the most part in 2014, talking about some breakups or going through, how can I word this? Going through her emotions and but also putting her emotions onto pen and paper and kind of being putting herself out there in that aspect. But let's get into style.
So, style, I think that may have been like the song, the first one I heard at the record store or whatever was style, and I just really like the vibe of like the James Dean daydream look in your eye, like
Mhm.
just the kind of world building that she creates with the song. Um, and this one I think is just a simple, like, painting a picture for, nice couple having a good time and all that shit. I'm sure there's a deeper meaning. This is before, like I said, this album was my first album, so that I didn't really deep dive into a lot of it. I
Yeah.
just like the vibe.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's a probably a good overshadow for the album. Like, it's a vibe. Like,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I know that word gets thrown around a lot. It's cliche and whatnot, but like the vibe of this album is just like it. Yeah, it's a good wave to ride.
No, I totally agree. One of the big ones I got out of this one is no matter how bad the breakup and stuff really was, uh, when they reconnect or they reconvene or they see each other, maybe if they're get away from each other, like she's kind of leaning on the aspects of what makes, like kind of looking at the positives in the relationship sometimes, instead of always the negatives. And no matter how far away they go away from each other, they'll always be in style. They always find a way to reconnect or have those common grounds of the positivities in the relationship, whether it's positive or good. But I'm kind of going back and listening to this. This is one of the songs where, as you listen to, you heard so much of growing up, that you're like, oh, this song again on the fucking radio. But kind of like taking a break from it and coming back to it and listen to it, I think it's one of my favorite songs on the album. I really like style. Like I like the beat to it and stuff.
Yeah, I think those first like guitar licks are like pretty iconic. Like
Mhm.
it's a
And
good
I
intro.
style, I believe looking at it here, no, it's not even close. Never mind. I was gonna say I think style is one of the most played songs on the album, but no, there's a clear number one when it comes to that. What do you, real quick before we break, what do you think the most listened to song on the album is, on Spotify at least?
Uh, it's not "Shake It Off." I don't think.
It's
That's
not.
I think that would be like I think it's Wildest Dreams.
Wildest Dreams is like 713 million plays, and I think the second most played is, it's looking like This Love with 244 million. Oh, nope. Slut has 254.
Oh, well, yeah.
Now We Don't Talk, 258 is pretty high. And then Is It Over Now, 392. So the second place is 392 million, but 713 million for Wildest Dreams, which is, That's 700. Could you imagine 700 times, like 700 million times for one song? That's
I
crazy.
do believe, though, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. Wildest Dreams was released like well before the rest of the album with the Taylor's version.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So the next one here we have is we're gonna dive into uh Out of the Woods. Now, this one I had no idea what was going on with it. I listened to the lyrics, I couldn't pull really anything out of it. And like I said, it was a lot of the "Are we out of the woods? Are we out?" Like it was a very repeating hook lyric thing. Um, like I said, I really couldn't pull much out of this one, but like I said, it was a good vibe. It wasn't a bad listen to, but this is like one of the songs on the album. When I was listening to it, I was like, all right, I'm getting a little like repetitive, all hook, all verse, not enough verse, but all hook and all chorus.
I get that. I get that, the Out of the Woods being repetitive. I think the
Hmm.
heart of this song really is in like the breakdown at the end, but overall the song just being like, in a relationship, having troubles, having turmoil, then seeing like a little like, uh time of peace or whatever, and just wondering like, are we out of it like yet? Like, and
Yeah,
like the repetitiveness, I can understand, wearing on you, but it is like constantly wondering, like, are we out? Are we out? I really would like to know if we are out of the woods, if everything's gonna be good. Like,
yeah,
that's what I take from that. But I just really like just the melody, and really just the story being told, the picture painted with the breakdown,
yeah.
the whole hospital room and all that stuff.
Mhm, and, the how you were saying too that out of the woods, when if you go through a breakup or a relationship or a friendship or a fight or whatever it may be, you have that moment where you're kinda, like, in your own head, like, is this pain? Is this discomfort? Are these feelings? Are these things ever gonna go away? And like you said, are we out of the woods yet? Have we broke through the other side? Are we gonna be together? Are we not gonna be together? Are we still gonna be friends? Are we still gonna talk? Like, all that uncertainty, and I can kinda see it feeling like you're lost in the woods and trying, are we out of the woods yet? I definitely see where you're coming from on that. But like I said, like that one, it was tough for me just kind of being going through. There is a point in the album for me when I was listening to it, like the two or three times I did, or three or four times I listened to it, where I felt like the album just started to blend together for me. And I was just kind of like, it all became one track, if that makes sense. Like it was hard for me to just start taking it, because there is a lot of tracks on this album. It is very, it's a longer album because, especially if you listen to deluxe versions, right? So you listen to track one through whatever, and then it had three bonus tracks on 1989 that were like the deluxe versions, and then on top of the re-release Taylor's version, there's another five tracks. And there's an album between like, because I think with listening to this going into it, like, okay, Taylor's version is important for this reason. Here's the original album with bonus tracks, and then here's the five songs that followed it after, which were kind of written during that time but not released, and then her going back and then revisiting those things and then bringing these back out. Um, so there's a break in the album when it comes to this, at least, where um, you're excited for something new, but there is also a point for me where everything kind of just like molds to one whole experience, if that makes sense.
That, I think, is a conversation to be had about a lot of modern artists.
Hmm.
Because the original album was like 13 songs, and then there was a deluxe version like a couple months later or something like that, like traditional. Now it's just like, there's so much music being put into an album, and a lot of other artists are facing kind of similar things from critics or fans or whatever, where it's just like, when you listen for so long, like, yeah, and especially when like an album, it's not just a random collection of songs. Like, they put these together with like thought in mind, that they are a cohesive unit.
Hmm.
So when there is so much of it, yeah, it's gonna kind of blend together in some, I think the same could be said for movies.
Hmm.
A 3 hour movie, a hour and a half in, I'm like, I need something else. I really need to
You got to
watch
shift
something
gears.
else. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I get that for sure. But like I said, when I bought the CD, it was 13 songs, so it was very palatable at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like I guess the hits, right? I think definitely what makes this album stand out is the hits. When you have your Blank Spaces, your Styles, your Shake It Offs, your Bad Blood, your Wildest Dreams. I would probably say what like a This Love was a pretty popular one. Like you're it was very heavy in the beginning of the album with the hits, and then once that last hit of the album breaks, everything after is kind of like, all right, well, I know that there's no more radio songs on this album. So maybe you kind of have that peter off of like, all right, I can't really sing along. I can't vibe. I can't bop. I don't have that catchy beat. Like, and then the rest of the songs kind of are her just kind of putting her music and emotion into it. And it's not the ones that kind of caught you on the radio or on a music video or whatever it may be.
I think that's done intentionally. I don't dive super deep into her process, like I said, but I think
Mhm.
like I know there is a thing where it's like, oh, a track 7 on all her albums has kind of like there's an importance to the track 7 or something like that.
Interesting.
Again, I not a deep dive Swifty. I just
Just consume.
huge fan.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's kind of on purpose because when you think about it, the climax of a story is not the end of a story. There's still resolution that has to happen after that, and I think, and that specifically, and we'll get into the song "Clean." Um, I got that sense from that where it's like, okay, we're kind of like wrapping everything up. We're kind of settling down. Um, yeah,
Yeah, no, totally. All right, so the next one is All You Had to Do Was Stay. This one, for me at least, was one of those situations where it's like it seems like where she kind of is saying to the person like, I really enjoyed you, I liked you as a person, I know I can't be around. All you had to do was just kind of do this one thing for me and it would have lasted, but obviously they couldn't come to that resolution together of what they needed in each other's relationship. But this is another one for me where it was just like, once again, very heavy. If you read the lyrics, it's like a verse and then hook.
yeah,
Chorus, you know what I mean? Like once
yeah.
it kind of fell into that trap once again. But once again, the beats, like the people who produced it, the people who made the music, the people like it's not a bad listen. Like I said, it is very like, oh, there we go. All right.
It's
Yeah.
palatable. That's why I
Yeah.
think it's a good. I think it's the best introductory album to Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
If you're gonna dive into being a Swiftie, I believe that's what I said when I selected it. Like it's a good.
Totally. And I had and I'm honestly I'm kind of like when I first listened, I was like, oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna talk this entire time about this album because it was like it's so very repetitive, but then I had to go back and like I said, I'm still learning myself when it comes to having a guest on and doing a review and then kind of setting the tone of what the show is going to be and then kind of meeting in the middle with a guest, but also like I found myself, like I said, kind of going back and putting myself into the headspace of 2014 and understanding where she was in her life and her career and like being the biggest country artist of like and country music. When you think about country, those fans are dedicated. They put a lot of money into their artists. They travel very well for their artists. Like country's not as big, but when you're big in country, you're big. And to walk away from that to try to be a more global pop star brand, if you fail, like you fail hard because then now your country art side is going to be like, we weren't good enough for you and you had to go pop. Now they don't welcome you back. So it was a really scary moment for her. And I feel like when she was making this album, pop music is very heavy on the hook and chorus because it's catchy, it sticks in your head, it's repetitive. And I feel like when she put this album out, a lot of these songs also could have been radio hits, but after the 13 she put out, 6 of them were number one singles. So it was still good enough that like almost half the album became charting songs for her, and then the other half still did very well.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
um she also like she had to fight to make this album. That I do know. Like her label at the time did not want her to make pop music. They were a country label. They wanted her to make country music. There's a lot of pushback on what this album should be. There's a lot of pushback on what these songs should be. There's a podcast called Business Wars that I occasionally listen to. But typically they do like they'll do the cereal wars. They'll do a series on Post versus Kellogg and all of, like, the history of their rivalry as a company. They recently did an episode on Taylor Swift versus the world, and basically dives into all this stuff and like the Scooter Braun thing and why there's Taylor's versions. Does a much better job that I could ever explain to anybody
Mhm.
all the ins and outs of those things. But yeah, I definitely recommend that if you're into
I love that. That's a good
yeah,
recommendation. Yeah, like I said, I wanna be a popular podcast, but I definitely give the people their roses who are more established, who are more knowledgeable on the topics. I kinda wanna encapsulate just 2 people really passionate about something, or maybe one's not so passionate, but they were able to get the other person into it in a certain aspect. And I think that's overall, I think that's what we accomplished here today. Cause I'm gonna seek out and listen to more Taylor. Like, kind of spoiler alert here. Like, this album, like, I want to see her progression now. Like, she's somebody I might go back and listen to more discography of, because I think the way she handles herself as a person and stuff like that is really good. Now we are at the 50-minute mark, and we are a little late going into this because of technical difficulties. And to go through every single album, I feel like, or every single song, will be here
right.
forever. So I want to kind of maybe pull a little bit back on that. But is there any other songs like really on this album that really stand out to you, or that maybe, like, when you go back and look to it, like, these are the 5 or 6 songs that gravitate to you the most?
Um, I wish you would. I know. Wish you would is one that like definitely hooked me. Just that kind of like, I wish you would come back. I wish I didn't do this. I wish that, like, super relatable. You good. It's very epic sounding, if that makes sense. Just a
Mhm.
kind of cinematic in a way. Um, Bad Blood is a banger, by it, any stretch of the imagination. Uh, I I don't kn I remember watching the video and just thinking how cool it was that it was like a movie and there was, like, celebrity cameos and shit like
Mhm.
that, and as much as I don't like deep dive, I did for some reason find her beef with Katy Perry fascinating. Um,
That was very
I don't know
divisive.
why,
Yeah.
but, yeah, it to me was like so, to make it timely, a timely reference, it was like a diss track,
Yeah.
It was like, and I can't I remember thinking like, "Oh shit, Taylor Swift is doing, like, diss tracks out here." She's kind of, it's kind of unheard of, if a diss
Yeah.
track is hip hop and only hip hop, but nope, now it's fucking Taylor Swift.
Well, that's
And
kinda,
I'm
and she goes after hip hop artists and major pop artists in disses, and, like,
yeah,
that's kinda like, and I wouldn't say so much dissing, 'cause I don't wanna put that on her of just, like, she's out here starting trouble, but, like, she's not afraid to say how she feels, if that makes the mo like, I would, like, I don't wanna, like, put her in, like, she's someone out here, she's just causing problems, because maybe I can be relatable to Taylor in this, where I kinda get a little heat of, like, "I wish this guy would just shut the fuck up," but, like, if I go somewhere and I see some fucked up shit, like, I don't stay quiet about it, like, "Yeah, why are you being fucked up?" You know what I mean? Like, should I be here because this is the environment? You know what I mean? And, like, especially in the pro wrestling scene, I get myself in a little bit of trouble, like, if I sense some dirty, disgusting things, I'm like, yeah, I think this is my last booking here. You know what I mean? And, like, in a scene of pop culture where you chase your dreams, it's like you're kind of designed to be like, just no sell it, don't talk about it, just keep doing what you're supposed to do and move on. And it's just like, well, then that's how people go through horrible things, because no one really speaks up. You know what I mean? And Taylor's always speaking up on those issues and facts through her music, and she's not going to apologize and stay quiet. And I kind of like that about her.
yeah, I mean,
Kind of
she's
a
definitely
badass.
powerful enough that she can say and do whatever the fuck she wants.
Yeah, but that's the
Um,
thing. Like, she was powerful, but, like, this album where she does that, she
oh, it's a huge risk.
she's taking a
This
risk.
this is
Yeah.
her WrestleMania. Like she pulls all her resources, and this is a
Yes.
Hail Mary. Like if this don't work out, it could be curtains.
That is a
Or
great way to tie wrestling into it. I love that.
yeah.
Like, this is
It's go
WrestleMania.
or blank space, like, it's gonna be forever or it's gonna go down in flames, like, either this is gonna be one of the most iconic fucking albums of all time, or it's just gonna tank my whole fucking career.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
yeah.
fucking appreciate that. I appreciate her being ballsy enough to make that risk, and it paid off. Like, we're looking at it now as a culture significance, and this album really is. And I'm not trying to oversell it, but I really think so. A song for me on this album that I didn't really think I was like, it really caught me because I was like, oh, this is a creative way of doing this. Is the song "How to Get the Girl"? Like,
Mhm.
I listened to that one, I was like, that's a dope like song. Like, she's kind of giving you the blueprint of if you break a girl's heart or if you kind of fuck up, like, here's probably the steps you should go if you want to win your girl back or get back your situation, where instead of always being upset about the breakup, she's kind of also saying like, hey, this would be the way to win me back over. I really thought that was a cool song when that was played for me.
Mhm.
um there was another one. I want to say it was, shit, I'm losing my spot now. I think it's more of a bonus song. I thought "Slut" was good. I really enjoyed that one, and the New Romantics I liked a little bit. Like the closing track, I thought was a good way to button up the album.
New Romantics was a deluxe edition or a bonus track from the original, and I people really loved that one. Clean, the actual like end of the actual album, really stuck with me. It was just like just the idea. I think it's the sound of it is a good like end to an album, just kind of almost like a palate cleanser. And
Mhm.
then just the comparison of just like, hey, I knowing that I'm over someone is like, I'm finally clean. Like, I think I in this day and age, I think kind of I've grown to feel like, yeah, comparing things to drugs is kind of corny, but I get it. Like at the time, I was like, yeah, this is all about it, and I still love the song.
Yeah, I
Um,
listened to that and I was like, "Did she go through rehab? Like, does she have a drug
yeah,
problem?"
but
And I
that's
was like,
it's just like getting over someone and comparing it to just like that whole
like, you're dependent on them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I will say Slut, um, my hot take, and it's not even a hot take. I don't think that that's a vault track. I think that shit was written for Midnights and didn't make the cut on Midnights, and she added it to 1989. I don't think she wrote that in 2014. Sorry,
Interesting.
Swifties. I just the way the whole vibe of it, it's definitely like produced like Midnights. It's yeah, it's not a 1989 track for me.
Yeah. Another thing that kinda stood out to me in this album too is, how much she does lean into her sexuality. Um,
Mhm.
I always kinda had her pegged at this point of an artist of she just did all bubblegum stuff for young girls, and then this album, like, she talks about, like, "Where were you when you were taking off my shirt the other night?" Like, you know what I mean? I was like, like, I didn't realize Taylor went that deep where she talked about like, oh, this isn't just like cutesy high school, we're holding hands in the mall love. Like, she's talking about like bumping fronts here in some songs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, and that's once again, as a woman in early, like, at any time and point in life. Like, I mean, I think we're getting better at later in life, like now, where girls can be open about their sexuality and enjoying sex and stuff like that without like the terminology like, oh, I'm a slut, whatever. I think it's getting to the point where like that like women are getting better at just removing that stigma. Just like, I don't give a fuck what you think. Like, just fuck off. You know what I mean? But like, 2014 Taylor kind of talking about that once again, breaking and changing the mold was like a bold ass move, which I truly respect. Like, she's almost like her She-Hulk mode. Like as She-Hulk as a comic is a character who's just like very sexual and talks about what she wants in life and what she wants to get, but also chasing her dreams and being a superhero. Like, I kind of like that empowerment, woman empowerment that she kind of leans into it with a lot of these songs. So that was very shocking for me. Um, which I liked about Taylor in this album, different usage of instruments. So I really like it is very heavy drum beat and synthesizer, but then like a song like Shake It Off has the horns and stuff, which I thought was cool. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really enjoy this. I'm very glad you picked this, and I'm very happy that I took time to like learn more about the artist and Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Rob, I think he kind of made me a Swiftie a little bit.
The sovereign of Swifties rules again.
Is there anything else about this album or just about Taylor Swift in general you want to cover here before we wrap up?
Um, I have fond memories of when this album came out. I had just started training to wrestle, and I had ended up losing my job because I was training to wrestle, and I ended up working as I worked on a dairy farm for 2 years. I was a farm hand to try and kind of make ends meet. So my I just have memories of just like walking onto the farm early in the morning, and New Romantics is in my headphones, and yeah, a lot of good memories with this album. Again, I think it's it's the most Taylor Swift album. I think if someone was to try and get into Taylor Swift, this is, I think, where to start, even though it's not her first album. Um, I definitely recommend listening to all her albums. I think even her worst album, in my opinion, is still a very good album. Uh,
What
yeah,
what
I
what what are what are some albums you would say, like, out of the Swiftie discography, like, you're some of the ones that stand out for you of, like, your favorites?
Folklore is my favorite album of anything ever. Um, Reputation, I think, is a great Taylor Swift album. Probably my second favorite. Um, Red, maybe not Red. A lot of people love Red. A lot of Swifties love Red. I really love. I think that's a great lyrical album, and I think there's definitely pop elements in it, even when she's like still very country. Definitely, there's a lot of Red lore, a lot of deep dive stuff in Red. And I'm a country, not a huge country fan, but I enjoy country music from time to time. I think her debut album, Taylor Swift, it's crazy when you listen to her most recent album and then go listen to her first album. It's like night and day because it is just so very just country twang and like all that shit I listened to in the late '90s. Uh, I think it's a great country album. Um, a lot of Swifties kind of don't value it because it is a country album and it is she was like 17 or whatever, but like I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, she's definitely someone who, just like I said, is very hyper criticized and looked at, especially now and today with celebrities, is like they're really under the microscope. Like if you don't say the right things or do the right things, like it is crazier now than ever. But yeah, no,
I also when the idea that so even when I wasn't like an outward like big Taylor Swift like out telling people I'm a Taylor Swift fan, big fan. I never got the idea that oh she's just singing about ex-boyfriends because I grew up on like Boys to Men, like all that kind of
Mhm.
R&B shit, and all that shit is about getting broken up with. Like it's all the same. So I never understood why she got this like criticism for doing the shit that everybody's favorite artist does.
Yeah. I also think like the early 2000s, mid 2000s was also an era for me at least, and I'm going to speak on it because like how you said too, like I graduated around the same time as you. I was a 2005 kid, dating myself a little bit, but like growing up, it was very toxic, like very toxic masculine. Like if you didn't listen to a certain music or watch a certain thing or do everything else the boys did, like oh man, you're gay. You know what I mean? Like you listen to pop music, but like for me, my dad was a very classic rock guy, and my mom was a very pop oriented musician. Like not musician, they were definitely weren't musicians, but even though my parents never really like played music, we were very much a music driven household. So like my dad would be like, here's Aerosmith and here's ACDC and here's Led Zeppelin and The Who. And my mom's like, here's Rod Stewart and Alanis Morissette and Heart. And you know what I mean? So I had a really good vibe of the both genres. So I always had a love for pop music, but it was like you didn't talk about being a fan of pop music growing up. Like I remember having like a cousin, a female cousin, and I go over her house and she'd be just jamming the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, and I was like, it's catchy. I like it. but I'm never gonna tell anybody at school I like it. Like, I'm a grown ass man, and if you put on a Backstreet Boys song, I know every lyric. I know basic some of the dance. I can't do them, but I know them from watching the music videos and watching people study them and redo them. But like, yeah, there was a point in time where as a man, like, you were not supposed to be rocking to pop music. Like, and I kind of like the fact that it's okay socially to just enjoy what you enjoy. And there was a rough point there where, like, at least in the 2000s, it felt like it was very divisive. Like, if you had to be like, everyone had to fall into certain lines in certain categories, and you had to stay there. And if you went out of it, like, you got harassed for it. Like, that's kind of why I named the show Not Cool in High School, because I want to go back and listen to stuff or talk about things that, like, when I was growing up, you weren't cool if you liked it. Like, you would be an outcast. Like, you're the Taylor Swift kid. Like, it would be a problem in my small little coal region school.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's not just like oh, that's a girl thing or whatever, it's just like top 40 music. Like you just weren't cool. You were, I don't know, I guess a poser or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever they called me, or not me, but like other kids. Like, but it's top 40 for a reason. There's a reason those songs are on the radio.
absolutely. So, kind of before we wrap up out of here, do you have anything going on that you want people to know about? Do you have some stuff you want to promote, plug, new merch, anything like that?
Uh, sure. If you're in Delaware specifically, or near Delaware specifically, I'm actually I don't know, people who follow me have maybe known I do some work with a community theater occasionally. Um, the theater, the Kent County Theater Guild, is having a variety show on June 28th and 29th, Friday and Saturday. It is a fundraiser to get some new stuff for help out the needs around the theater. So the tickets are a little pricier just because we're trying to get some stuff done. But yeah, it's a variety show. There's some sketches. There's some people performing some music. I think there's a talent portion. Um, yeah, so I'll just go ahead and plug that. Um,
Do me a favor. Could you remind me of that when you get closer, like in a DM? I just got wheels, and hopefully by
once
that
this
time I'll
stuff
have
comes
some
out,
cash.
I'll be like posting and stuff,
Perfect.
and just like constantly trying to push it to help out the theater.
Is that the
It's
one that
great.
you and most of the goons go do?
Yeah. There's an
Yeah.
exercise. Also, I forget when the next one is, but once a month there's one. There's an exercise called Pop. It's people write short form scripts. Anybody can write a 10-minute script and submit it, and people will just on the spot just read and act out the scripts on stage. It's a good time.
Yeah, now that I have
As
a
far
car
as
again, I wanna get out and support people, and that's definitely one of the things I wanna come out and support you guys down in Delaware, is to come see those shows.
Hell yeah. As far as wrestling goes, my shoulder's been a little messed up, but my next gig is June 23rd at Fight Club. The show name and all that stuff hasn't really been announced yet, but I do want to get out there. June 23rd, Fight Club in Cheverly, Maryland, near DC.
Mhm.
I'll be challenging for the Chocolate City Championship against Sandino, so come check that out. I think that's all I got for the time.
Just one little quick question before we get out of here that's not Taylor Swift related, but more you related, because I definitely still wanna put you over as a person. Mania week kinda
Yeah.
came and gone. Big deal if for people in the WrestleMania scene. WrestleMania week in any city is a situation where it brings the world together for a scene and a type of art form of professional wrestling. Whether you're into it or not, I feel like if you're in a city WrestleMania weekend and you kind of put yourself in that community, in that scene, I don't if you don't fall in love with it, I don't think you have a pulse. You know what I mean? It's a really cool, welcoming international vibe, and it transforms a city for an entire week when it comes to like the independent wrestling scene. Um, how was it for you going into Mania week, and having some of the performances you've had, and then post WrestleMania week, how do you feel as a performer? Did it do anything for you? Because a lot of people, when it comes closer to home like this, it
Mhm.
does. It inspires people. It gets people in a new gear. It gets people like it has either one or two effects. How was that for you?
So Mania Week for me was pretty special. It was my first Mania Week. I've been wrestling almost 10 years now. Not that I ever tried super hard to get. I mean, like last couple years I did. But yeah, it was my first Mania Week. Super excited about it. Very thrilled to be a part of Sean Henderson presents and Labor of Love's Euphoria, which was the first show I was on that week at Attic Brewing Company. Awesome brewery. If you're in Philly, check those guys out. Yeah, it was just I was very excited to not only wrestle and perform, which obviously is what I love doing, but also to mingle with my peers. Everyone kind of comes together, and it was nice to get to just talk to some. Dude, there's something special about WrestleMania. I know it sounds corny, but like, and I had a lot of people talk to me around Philly, fans that were like, "Oh, I didn't know anything was going on. Now I love this shit." Like, it's like,
Mhm.
it's cool. It really gets more eyes on more wrestlers, and then also Saturday had a big match at Thrashovania from PWI's Kevin McElvaney was in the ring with like a who's who of like super talented, super big like indie names like Man like Doris and Alec Price, and I'm like, man, why am I in this match? But yeah, that was a very special time for me. Coming out of WrestleMania week, I did also make it a point to network, make some contacts. Which I think I did successfully, uh, not only for wrestling, but I also do graphics and video work and stuff like that too. So um, definitely hoping to get some more stuff going. Definitely feel good about that. Mania Week is where I hurt my shoulder, so booking wise, it hasn't really done a whole lot. I'm not like out. I'm just trying to take it
Rest of it,
easy.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, can't wait for the next one. Hopefully I can participate
Yeah.
again.
So I want to say just in closing here, man, like Mania, the build up to Mania and then Mania week, in aspects of like one of the things I really enjoyed is like we showed up at just randomly the week before at Attic Brewing to kind of set the tone of what's going on for Mania week, and I didn't even know you were going to be there, and it was like a karaoke night. I
Mm.
had a genuine blast hanging out with you. Like
Yeah, it was
outside
a
of the
good time.
landscape of professional wrestling and singing karaoke, and we got to do something together. Like I enjoyed that. Like I enjoyed spending time with you. Like I feel like I really got to know you a lot more that week. And then the kind of like Hank, because we were kind of the first ones there at Labor of Love the next like for the show the first day, and being there super early. We got to be on the news. That was kind of fun. Like I don't know. I felt like I really got to know you more on a personal side, not just the wrestling side, Mania week, and I really value that. Like I thought that was kind of cool. Not throwing myself on you, but anytime you want to hang out, man, just hit me up. I will
Yeah,
definitely chill with you. You're a good time.
I appreciate that.
But just
Um,
but you, like I said before during our interview, like you're someone as a performer, like you were very early into my journey of independent wrestling, and you're someone I attach myself to with a lot of different feelings and emotions, and learning a lot about the business. And then to see you kind of grow and evolve and kind of know behind the scenes, because you once again you are very candid and open on social media about some of your struggles and hangups and things that you go through, which I think is really good too. Of like you're a masculine dude, man. Like people look at the thumbnail and they're like, "Yo, you and this guy are talking Taylor Swift." Like, I like how you kind of put your heart in your sleeve and you're not afraid to talk your emotions and put things out there, but you're still very reserved and quiet in certain aspects. And there's a lot of aspects of a person of you that I pull from, and I root for you. Um, but like I was really proud of you, Mania Week. I got to see you mostly at Labor of Love, but just kind of even leading up to it, like seeing you at High Tension at Cheeseburger School, doing stuff there, and like the character you're developing and what you're kind of putting out as a wrestler with your new gear. Lily even said your new gear is fantastic. Like your kind of reinvention of yourself in 2024, 2023. I've been really proud of, man, and I think you're making great strides. And I don't know how much you hear this or how much you should, but you should hear it more often. I'm very proud of what you're accomplishing. Like I really think you're really finding yourself with this big time, you know, this the new monikers and like the music and just the way you're conducting yourself, and keep grinding, man. Because I'm as an outside source who watches a lot of professional wrestling, I do look forward to your performances.
Well, I appreciate that. It's very sweet of you. It's very flattering to hear, very encouraging to hear. So thank you for that.
Always, always, man. Anything else you want to talk about, plug, before we get out of here?
Um, nah, I guess that's it.
All right.
I guess I'll
Thank you
catch you
guys
on the
so
next
much.
one.
Yes, please. Well, hit me up in the DMs if you want to, if you have another movie or something else in mind that you want to cover, or another album. Next time me, you, and Shady get together, we could figure out another Taylor thing. I definitely would like to cover another Taylor album, whether it be her newest one at some point in a couple months or whatever it may be. But yeah,
Honestly, Shay and I have been talking about the newest one. I think if you're gonna have Shay and I on, I think
the newest one.
that might be a fun one to do.
All right, cool. Maybe we'll set something up for June or July. See how people's schedules are. We'll set it up. But thank you all so much. I apologize for the technical difficulties of starting so late. I this computer, I swear, like hopefully this new job kicks in soon and I can start making some money and get myself thing, because this laptop is starting to scare me. We beat the shit out of this laptop, and this is essentially the lifeblood of my content and my life at this moment. So once again, if you can, go grab a t-shirt. New t-shirts will be up tomorrow. Like I said, we have those new logos. And also, I'm not able to put it up, but I'm not sure if Rob wants to use it, but he got a cool little Taylor Swift font Rob Radke logo we sent over. Anyone who does the podcast, Witchcraft by Lily does make up a cool little spoof logo of the subject you pick, and we send. Do you have the file, or did I not send it to you? Just make sure.
Oh, I don't remember.
All right, I will send you another copy of that to make sure you have it. But yeah, so thank you guys so much. We're gonna get out of here. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. We'll see you on the next Not Cool in High School. There is another episode this Thursday. I'm still pending on the guest. We may have to just move on from that guest and reschedule another day and then put something else in there. So Thursday is gonna be up in the air. I have a couple days to figure something out. So to be determined. We'll see you guys on the next one. Not Cool in High School. ABJ Podcast presents. We're out of here. This is an ABJ Podcast production. Join us. Would you kindly join us at the Cult of ABJ Discord community? We'll see you there. Join us.